Pack your things, my mom said, like she was asking me to pass the salt. Sunday dinner, meatloaf and silence. She didn't look up from the slicing the loaf. She just tapped the knife against the plate and added, "Derek needs your room." My name is Hadley Evans. I'm 28, front desk coordinator at a physical therapy clinic, and for the past 11 months I've been living back at my parents' place to drive my dad, Theodore, 62, to physical therapy after his knee replacement. I put the utilities on my card because the shutoff notices made his chest tight, mowed the lawn because the HOA sent warnings about overgrowth, and stocked the fridge because I was there and we needed eggs. My mom, Yvonne, 58, calls it freeloading. My brother, Derek, 31, calls the house his inheritance. I finished my water, put my plate in the sink, and didn't argue. Dad's fork paused halfway to his mouth, but he looked at the table, not at me. Derek leaned back, thumbed his phone, and said, "I told you it'd be less crowded." He didn't say thank you for the rides, the groceries, the Tuesday night trash cans. In my room, the one I painted a soft gray last August, I pulled the same cracked plastic tubs from beneath the bed that I'd used to move in. They still smelled faintly like pine sol from that first weekend when I scrubbed baseboards because I couldn't stand the dust. I folded my scrubs, rolled cords, stacked the plant stand. The $108 mower I bought at the hardware store in September flickered in my brain like a price tag. I'd grab that from the shed later. Mom hovered in the doorway once, arms folded. "You're making a scene," she said. I zipped a duffel. "I'm packing like you asked." Dad limped past the hall and muttered, "Let's not do this right now," to no one in particular. He hates money talk, hates the way it sticks to everything. By 7, the tubs were in my trunk, the back seat, the passenger side. I took one last look at the clean bedspread Derek wanted and closed the door carefully. In the car, I opened my banking app and then my email. Power, water, trash, internet. Months ago, I'd logged into their accounts, added my card, and set Autopay so the notices would stop giving Dad that pinched look at the mailbox. I scrolled to each Autopay and turned it off. On the utility sites, I removed my card from the saved payment methods. It felt like clicking unsubscribe on a newsletter that had been spamming my life. At the shed, I slid the mower's handle down and lifted it into my trunk. It fit crooked, wheels catching on a tub lid. The receipt in the mower box is still in my glove compartment from the day I bought it. $118.07 with tax. I'd kept it because I keep everything. Receipts, appointment cards, little proof slips that say I was here and I did the thing. I texted my friend Lena, "Can I crash on your couch?" Long story. Rent you pizza. She sent the door code and a heart. At her place, I borrowed a blanket that smelled like her detergent and stared at the ceiling with my phone lighting my face. A listing I remembered from a community Facebook group. Tiny studio, month to month, utilities not included, was still up. Landlord used an online application portal. I filled it out on my phone, uploaded my pay stubs, and paid the application fee. 30 minutes later, he called, said the current tenant had just moved out. I could sign electronically tonight and pick up keys Tuesday. I signed. It felt like stepping over a crack in the sidewalk you've been avoiding for months. Monday morning, I went to work like usual. I checked in patients, answered phones, and printed schedules. I scheduled my dad's next 2 PT slots at 8:30 a.m., like we always did, but I left the transport line blank. My boss, Quinn, raised an eyebrow at the extra coffees on my desk and the pillow crease on my cheek, but she didn't ask. At lunch, I drove to the internet provider and returned the black router with the barcode sticker they'd issued when I started service in my name last fall. The clerk scanned it, typed, and handed me a receipt. "Account closed," she said. I folded the receipt into my wallet. That evening, I swung by the house while they were at the store. I took the last plant and the box of spices that were actually mine. The calendar on the fridge still had my handwriting on it. Dad's PT times, trash days, due dates scrawled with little stars. I ran my finger over a star and then left. By Tuesday, I had keys. The studio was exactly one room and a bathroom, with a kitchenette that offered me 2 cabinets and optimism. I set down a folding table, a chair, and my pothos plant. I hung a single hook by the door for my key, mine and only mine. On Friday morning, just after my first patient check-in, my phone buzzed with a text from Derek. Send $3 to turn the water back on. I scrolled my camera roll, pulled up screenshots of the Autopay cancellations and the internet return receipt, and replied, I removed my card from your accounts. Ask the homeowner. By 10, the family group chat was a storm cloud on my lock screen. Derek, 3:12, today or they won't restore until Monday. This is retaliation. Mom. Mom, why would you do this to your father? Mom, answer your phone. Derek, you shut off the internet too? Real mature. I didn't have the energy to explain that I hadn't shut anything off. I'd taken my card off accounts that never should have had it. I sent 3 screenshots, the auto-pay cancellations with date and time stamps, and the internet return receipt with Monday's date. Me, I'm not paying your household bills anymore. Ask the homeowner. 3 dots blinked, disappeared, blinked again. Then Mom called. I let it go to voicemail. Quinn glanced over the front desk and slid a new patient packet toward me. You okay to take Dr. Patel's calls if they start coming in? Yep. I tucked my phone face down and buzzed the next arrival in. Dad texted me separately a few minutes later. Dad, can we talk? Me? Yes, not here though. Text me after PT. He sent a thumbs up. At lunch, I drove to my studio to drop off a thrift store dish rack and the $12 folding table I'd scored off Marketplace. The place smelled like clean paint and new dust. I set the plant on the windowsill and hung my key on the single hook by the door. Just the one key. No house alarm codes, no shared calendars. My stomach unclenched a notch. Back at the clinic, I pulled up the scheduling software. I added Dad to the 8:30 slots for next week, like always. In the notes, I left transportation blank. No Hadley, no assumptions. The phone kept ringing. Insurance questions, a no-show to rebook, a surgeon's office asking for fax confirmation. My head stayed in that rhythm. The group chat lit up again mid-afternoon. Derek, HOA, put some orange notice on the door. This is the mess you made. Mom, this is embarrassing, Hadley. The neighbors will talk. A photo came through. An orange sheet taped to the glass. Bold black letters. Courtesy notice. Lawn maintenance required. The grass hadn't been mowed in 2 weeks. The mower was in my trunk. Me, the mower is mine. You can hire someone or borrow one. Not my responsibility. Mom, you lived here 11 months. You owe us consideration. Me, I moved out because you told me to pack my things. I won't be the household's secret auto-pay anymore. If you want help from me, it comes with respect and a written plan. Otherwise, I'm out. She typed for a long time. Nothing came through. I took the silence and kept answering phones. Dad texted again around 4. Dad, what does written plan mean? Me, simple. We agree on what I'll do, what you'll do, dates, and you stick to it. No more guilt, no more surprises. If I help with money, there's a repayment plan. In writing. Dad, I don't want to fight. Me either. That's why it needs to be clear. I can explain after your session if you want. He didn't reply, which usually meant he was thinking or avoiding. With Dad, it was a coin toss. Quinn set a cup of water by my elbow, like she always does when I forget to drink. You're doing a lot of breathing, she said quietly. Family texts, she nodded. Boundaries are good. Keep it off the front desk if you can. I am. I tapped my phone off again. On the way out that evening, I swung by a little office supply store and grabbed a cheap printer paper ream and a folder. My hands felt steadier when I had paper. At home, I slid the folder into my drawer and ate cold leftover lo mein from a carton on the floor. The studio echoed in a way that felt more like space than empty. At 6:12, Mom broke her silence with a voice message I didn't play. Derek sent me a screenshot of a $75 trash overage fee from the city and labeled it your fault, even though trash day was Tuesday and he'd skipped it. I didn't respond. I wiped down the tiny counter, lined up my 2 mugs, and looked at the key on the hook again. My phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. Local area code. Hello? Hadley? It's Dad. His voice sounded thin, like he was in a hallway. My phone died. I'm at Barrett's. He let me use his. I pictured him on the neighbor's porch, hands in his pockets, doing that half shrug he does when he asks for something he hates asking for. I can't get them to listen, he said. The city said it's $312 to turn the water back on. Can you, just this once, put it on your card until your mom gets paid on Monday? He paused, swallowed. Please. I didn't say yes on the porch phone call. I told Dad I wouldn't put the water on my card and that we could talk Monday when he was at PT. He sighed, said okay, and thanked Barrett for the phone. Sunday, I set up my studio a little more. I wiped out cabinets, stacked 2 plates, stuck my plant in more light, and put my receipts into the new folder I'd bought. I pulled my bank statements on my laptop and started a list. Power, water, trash, internet, groceries, dates, amounts, confirmation numbers, 6 months back. I highlighted totals in yellow, added notes when I'd paid ahead to avoid a shutoff. It was boring and steady and felt like taking my own pulse. Monday, I took my ream of paper to work. On my break, I slid it into the clinic printer tray so I wasn't using the office supply, and I printed the ledger, 2 copies. Quinn walked by, saw my name on the top of the page, and didn't ask. Dad came in at 8:20 for his 8:30 slot. He wore the same gray windbreaker he always does when he wants to look like he's fine. He checked in with Mark at the desk, then spotted me in the lobby and lifted a hand like he wasn't sure if waving was allowed. Hey, I said, meeting him by the water fountain. He glanced at the chairs, at my coworkers, at the hall where the treadmills hummed. Got a minute? He asked, like we didn't both know his therapist would be calling his name any second. Yeah. I handed him the folder. I made you something. He opened it. Inside, the ledger pages were clipped together, highlighter stripes neat and itchy looking under the fluorescent lights. The numbers made a block of proof between us. This is 6 months, I said. Utilities and grocery drops. All the autopays I put on my card. I'm not fronting another dollar without an agreement, Dad. If you want my help, it has to be clear, and it has to be respectful. In writing. He winced like a light was too bright. I don't want to be in the middle, Hattie. I've been the middle for a year, I said, quieter. Between the mailbox and your chest, between the shut-off notices and the calendar. That's what I'm stepping out of. He looked down at the yellow lines again. His thumb smoothed the edge of the page. From the gym area, someone let out a grunt and dropped a weight. Dad nodded, small, like the movement didn't cost anything, and tucked the folder under his arm. Mr. Evans, his therapist called from the hallway. Ready? He cleared his throat. Yeah. To me, thank you. He said it like he meant it. Then he limped after his therapist. The folder snugged in tight like it might spill. The day rolled forward. I took insurance cards and rescheduled a no-show and told a man twice that no, he couldn't just walk into a therapist's exercise bay to talk about his neighbor's back pain. I ate a granola bar at my desk and ignored the family group chat pinging my pocket. At 7, After I'd locked my studio door and set my one mug on the counter, Mom posted on Facebook, "Children these days think responsibility is optional. Imagine abandoning the people who raised you when it's inconvenient." No names, but the comment section did the usual. "Praying for you, Yvonne." And "Kids can be so selfish." I didn't engage. I took a photo of my key on its hook and texted it to Lena instead. She sent back a string of star emojis. Derek texted a photo of my old room with his gym bag on the bed like a flag planted. No caption. The nightstand still had the water rings I'd left and wiped and left again. I put my phone face down and washed my one bowl. Tuesday morning, on my way out, my phone buzzed. Barrett had sent a photo from their street. 2 brimming trash cans with the lids up like hats and black bags piled beside them. A bright paper tag hung off one handle. "Overflow, improper, set out. $50 fine." In the background, you could see Dad on the porch steps and Mom half turned, hand on her hip. My stomach did a slow flip. Derek beat Barrett's text by 30 seconds with his own. "This is your mess. City just tagged us. You started this? You can pay the fine." I stopped on the sidewalk and typed, "Thumb steady. Me. I'm not paying your fines. I didn't create the overflow. I moved out when Mom told me to. I took my card off the accounts I set up. Ask the homeowner. If you want my help, it's with respect and a written agreement. Otherwise, no." 3 dots popped up and vanished. Another photo came through. Derek's close-up of the tag. The $50 circled with his finger like the city was my personal cashier. He called. I let it go to voicemail. The morning air felt clean on my face. I locked my door, checked the key hook twice even though the key was in my hand, and walked to my car. Derek showed up at the clinic at 10:17, right between a Medicare intake and a post-op knee. I saw him through the glass doors before he was at the desk, jaw tight, hat backward, phone in his hand like a weapon. 312, he said, loud enough for the waiting room, plus 50 for the trash. For Dad's sake, Hadley. A couple of patients looked up. I felt the heat crawl up my neck and kept my voice even. "You can wait over there," I said, nodding at the chairs. "I'm working." He paced instead, fingers drumming on the counter. "You turned off the water. You need to fix this. Today." Quinn appeared from her office, calm as always. She stepped beside me, hands folded. "Sir, if you need to speak with our staff, you can sit and wait quietly, or you can step outside and make a private call." "You cannot disrupt the desk." He laughed through his nose. "I'm her brother. This is family." Quinn didn't blink. "This is a medical office. Those are your options." I pulled an envelope from the drawer under my keyboard. I'd stuffed it that morning with photocopies of my ledger summary and a 1-page agreement I'd typed up the night before. "If you want my help," I said, sliding it across the counter, "this is how. Respectful communication. Clear tasks, dates. If it involves money, repayment terms, signatures, otherwise, no." He snatched the envelope, ripped it open, and scanned the top page. "Respect," he read, like it tasted wrong. "No yelling, no name-calling, no group chat pile-ons." "Are you serious?" "Yes." He tore the papers in half, then in quarters, and let the pieces flutter into our wastebasket. "You think you got leverage? You don't. You owe this family." Quinn's voice lowered a degree. "We're done here. You can leave, or I can call building security." He held my gaze another second, waiting for me to flinch. I didn't. He turned and shoved through the doors, letting them slap back on their hinges. Quinn exhaled. "You okay?" "I'm fine." My hands weren't shaking, which felt like a small miracle. He wanted $312 and $50 for a trash tag. She nodded. "Document what just happened. Email it to me. If he comes back, we'll have him trespassed." I typed a quick incident note into my personal folder and forwarded it with the timestamp to her work email. Then I picked up the next call, a referral from a surgeon's office, and said hello, like nothing had cracked. At lunch, I ate a turkey sandwich in the break room and scrolled my texts. Barrett had sent a photo taken from his driveway. Mom on ours, chin high, finger jabbing the air at a woman in a navy polo with an HOA logo. The woman stood with her clipboard tucked against her hip, looking patient in a way that only comes from years of complaint lines. I recognized her from the neighborhood newsletter, Monica, the board rep who signed the seasonal reminders. Barrett. She's been at it 10 minutes. Monica's repeating dates and policy like a robot. Want me to walk over? Me. Please don't. Thank you for the heads up. Barrett. Your dad's sitting on the porch steps. He looks tired. I'm keeping an eye out. I stared at the photo until my phone dimmed. Then I put it face down and finished my sandwich. The afternoon slid by in co-pays and reminder calls. At 5, I packed my bag, nodded goodnight to Quinn, and drove home. The hallway outside my studio smelled like someone's burnt toast. On the floor against my door was an unsealed manila envelope. No return address. My name scrawled in my mom's handwriting. Inside was a photocopy of a will. The names were my parents. The date was 8 years ago. A single line underlined in blue pen. The real property at, address, to our son Derek. On the corner, a sticky note in Mom's looping hand. No leverage here. I stood with my back to the door and the envelope open in my hands. The paper felt both heavy and cheap. I took a photo of it with my phone, front and back, date stamp visible. Then I slid it back into the envelope and tucked it into my folder with the rest of my receipts. Not my fight, not my carrot. My buzzer rang before I'd even set my bag down. The sound startled me. It's a harsh, metallic buzz that makes the whole doorframe hum. I pressed the intercom. Hello? It's your mother, Mom said, her voice tinny and already offended. Open the door. I'm not expecting visitors, I said. Derek's voice cut in from the background. We're calling the police. You stole the router and the mower. That's theft. Open up. I looked at the internet return receipt in my wallet without even pulling it out and felt the mower receipt, crisp and original, in my glove compartment in my mind. The router was in my name. I returned it Monday. I have the receipt. The mower is mine. I bought it. I have the receipt. You think a receipt makes it right? Mom snapped. You're sabotaging your own family for attention. We're calling the police. Okay, I said. I'll wait inside. Silence. Then the buzz of the entry door as someone else came in downstairs. The murmur of voices. I locked my deadbolt, set my bag on the chair, and laid the receipts on the folding table like place settings. My studio was quiet, except for the faint plumbing rush from a neighbor's shower. I took a breath, then another, and waited. The knock came 12 minutes after the buzzer. 2 quick raps, then a pause. Ms. Evans? A voice called through the door. Police. I checked the peephole. 2 officers, 1 older, 1 younger. No family in sight, which meant they were probably down the hall by the elevator. I opened the door to the chain and set the receipts on the table where they could see them. Hi. We got a call about a dispute over property, the older one said. Router and a lawnmower? The router was in my name. I returned it Monday. I slid the receipt over, the internet company logo right at the top. The mower is mine. I bought it in September. The receipt's in my glove box, but I have a photo. I pulled it up and handed him my phone. He glanced at the date and the total. Okay, Mom's voice floated from the hall. She's lying. She's trying to hurt us. The younger officer stepped sideways so he was visible to the hallway and raised his voice just enough. Ma'am, we're speaking with her. Please wait. I kept my tone level. I moved out last week after my mom told me to pack my things. I removed my card from their utility accounts. They're upset the water is off. That's the context. Do you have the router here? The older one asked. I returned it at the store. Closed the account. The receipt has the return number. He nodded, skimmed it again, and handed it back. This is a civil matter. We can't make you turn over items you can prove are yours, and we can't make you pay bills. If they believe you owe them money or property, they can pursue it in civil court. The younger one stepped into the hall. Ma'am, sir, you'll need to leave the building now. You can't use the police to enforce a civil disagreement. That's my daughter, Mom said like it was Exhibit A. She's undermining us. Not a crime, he said, not unkindly. If you keep coming here, the building can trespass you. The older officer looked back at me. Do you want us to write an incident report? Yes, please. I gave him my ID and spelled my email for the case number. He wrote it down, calm and neat, like he'd done this a dozen times already. As they walked away, the older one glanced back and gave a small nod. Not sympathy exactly, recognition. The hallway went quiet. I locked the door, set my ID back in my wallet, and poured a glass of water. My phone buzzed with a new text from a number I didn't have saved, but knew immediately. Mackenzie, hey, this is Mac. Derek gave me your number a while ago. I'm showering at Bria's. The water is still off, and I can't do this. He's furious at everyone. Just letting you know I'm not at your place or whatever he's thinking. Me. Thanks for the heads up. I'm not getting involved. Hope you have a calm night. Mackenzie. Me too. I ate a yogurt standing up and watched the traffic outside my window thin. At 11:49, my phone lit up with Dad's name. Hey, I answered. I'm sorry about earlier, he said. His voice was steady, not thready like when he'd called from Barrett's. I don't want you to pay. I want to set up the bills so I can handle them. I don't know how to do all that online stuff. Can we meet somewhere? Tonight? There's coffee at the diner. I looked at my keys on the hook. I can meet you in 30. Okay. Thank you, Hattie. The diner sat on the edge of town where the highway bent. The neon coffee cup in the window buzzed, and the booths were covered in vinyl that stuck a little to your legs. Dad was already there in a corner booth, a mug in his hands, steam curling up. He slid a little blue notebook across the table when I sat down. Passwords, he said, embarrassed. Don't tell your mom I write them down. Everyone writes them down, I said. I opened my phone's browser and logged into his bank with the scribbled username and a password that had his high school mascot in it. He watched my fingers like the screen was going to bite. We pulled up the utilities one by one. Water, power, trash. He had accounts for all of them. Emails I recognized from 6 months of receipts in my folder, but he'd never logged in himself. Here, I said, turning the phone so he could see. Autopay. You put in your card, pick a date before the due date, and it runs. No more notices, no more orange tags. He rubbed a hand over his face and nodded. Do it. We set the water first. He hesitated over the amount in arrears and blinked like he wasn't sure the commas were in the right place. I didn't know it was that high, he said quietly. That's why I brought the ledger, I said, tapping the folder I'd carried in. No surprises. We'll set the dates to the day after you get paid. It's predictable. He watched me enter the card number, expiration, the little code on the back. We did the same for power and trash. When we finished, 3 confirmation emails hit his inbox, chimed one after the other. He exhaled like he'd been holding his breath since last week. Thank you, he said, and he meant the whole thing, not just the clicks. I will move heaven and earth for a plan, I said. I won't go back to being the uncredited safety net. So if you need me, we write it down. He nodded. Okay. The bell over the door jingled. I didn't turn, but Dad's eyes flicked past me and then dropped. I knew that drop. Of course, Mom's voice came, sharp and bright in the hum of the diner. Here you are. She stood at the foot of our booth, jacket still on, pointing at me like she was IDing a suspect. You are turning your father against his family. The diner ended with the waitress setting down the check and saying, "We keep it friendly here," in a tone that made Mom step back half an inch. Dad said, "We're done for tonight," without looking at her. I drove home with the smell of coffee in my hair and slept hard. By the next afternoon, I was back at the front desk, printing patient labels, when my phone lit up with Barrett's name. "Hey," he said when I called back. "It looks like their power's out. Your dad's on my porch. He says his alarm for his meds didn't go off because the plug-in charger's dead, and he's worried about the stuff in the fridge." I pictured the kitchen in the dim, the hum gone. "Put him on?" "Hattie," Dad said. The wind was loud in the receiver. "I hate to ask, but can you come by with a cooler? I've got the injections in the fridge. I don't want them to spoil." "I'll come on my break," I said. "I'm not paying bills today." "I'll help with your meds." "I know," he said. "Thank you." I popped my head into Quinn's office. "Power's out at my parents'. My dad has refrigerated meds. Can I take a long lunch to grab them? I'll clock it back." She looked up over her readers. "Go. Bring a cooler." I keep 2 ice packs in my freezer like a disaster plan person. I grabbed my small camping cooler from my closet, tossed in the ice packs, and drove over. The neighborhood looked the same, but quieter. No AC hum, no TVs. A couple of houses away, a generator thumped. Our porch light was off. Dad sat on the steps with Barrett, both of them in windbreakers like it was a sports event. Inside, the kitchen was cool but not cold. The clock on the stove blinked dark. I opened the fridge, took out the brown paper bag with Dad's name from the pharmacy sticker, and tucked the boxes into the cooler, counting under my breath. I added his liquid antibiotic and the gel pack he keeps on the knee. He hovered next to me, fidgeting with the strap of the cooler. "I'm taking these to my place," I said. "You can come by to get what you need, or I can meet you. I'm caring for you, not your bills." He nodded. "I understand." Mom appeared in the doorway like she'd been waiting for a cue. "So you show up for theatrics, but you won't help your own father keep the lights on?" "I'm here for his medication," I said. "That's it." Derek leaned against the counter, arms crossed, phone out. "I tried to pay online," he said, like he'd done battle. "It says pending and some same-day processing cutoff. This is what happens when you break the system. They should make this easier." "You can pay in person," I said. "They'll restore same day if you go before 3. He rolled his eyes. "That's not how it works anymore. It's all online now. Why should I drive across town for some clerk to push a button?" "Because the button turns the power back on," I said. I shut the cooler and clicked the handle up. Mom took a step toward me in the narrow space, trying to box me in. "You think these little stunts make you look responsible?" "Monica from the HOA showed up this morning because the lawn looks like a field. Do you enjoy having our name dragged through the mud?" Before I could answer, the doorbell rang. Barrett, still on the porch, called, "It's the HOA again." Monica stood on the steps with a clipboard and a neutral smile. "Afternoon," she said. "I have a final notice regarding landscaping and the previous trash violation." She handed Mom a paper with dates and amounts. "If the grass isn't cut and the bins are corrected by Friday, there's a $100 fine and a $25 administrative fee. If that isn't addressed within 7 days, it escalates to a hearing with additional penalties. It's all outlined here." Mom opened her mouth. Monica kept her voice steady. "We're not here to shame anyone. We're just enforcing the bylaws everyone agreed to. If you need a list of local lawn services, I brought some cards." Mom's jaw clicked shut. She took the paper and stared at it like it might rearrange into a different message. I looked at Dad. "I'll drive you to the utility office after my shift. You can pay the past due for power and water, so they'll restore. We can also make sure you're listed as the primary contact with your phone and email. I lifted the cooler. I'll sit in the car. I'm not using my card. He blew out a breath. Relief? Resignation? Both. Okay, I'll get my ID. I can just go pay online, Derek muttered, but he didn't move. Then do it, Monica said pleasantly, tucking a card into Mom's free hand. Either way, the deadlines don't change. I took the cooler to my car. When I came back to the porch to say I'd text with the time, Mom followed me to the steps. Her voice was low and sharp. If you keep undermining me like this, I will make sure you're cut off from everything. Don't expect a place in this family when it counts. I met her eyes. I'm not waiting on anything from this house. I'm doing what Dad needs today. I walked down the steps. Barrett gave me a small nod, the kind that says, I saw. Back at the clinic, I set the cooler behind the front desk, where the AC could help the ice packs do their job. I finished charts and checked out a last patient, then texted Dad. Done at 5. Be ready with your ID. We'll go to power first. He replied with a thumbs up and a photo of his wallet on the table like a proof of life. At 5:20, I pulled up at the curb. He got in with the manila envelope that holds every important paper he owns. I put the cooler on the back seat. Ready? I asked. Ready, he said, and he meant it. We hit the power office first. Dad took a number, sat with his manila envelope on his knees, and watched the red LED tick forward. When it was his turn, he slid his ID under the glass and said, I need to clear past due and get it turned back on, today. The clerk typed, asked for his account number, and read the balance without judgment. He paid with his card. She updated the contact phone to his cell and had him initial a form that said they could call him about outages and billing. We can restore same day, she said, within a few hours. At the water office, we did the same. He paid the $312 and the reconnection fee. Primary contact? The clerk asked. Email? We put his down. I kept my hands in my lap and let him do the talking. In the car afterward, he looked at the receipts like they were a test he'd passed. Can we stop at the credit union? He asked. I want to open something just for the house. I don't want it mixed in. I can't keep track. Good idea, I said. The credit union lobby smelled like carpet cleaner and ink. A woman in a polo sat us at her desk and asked what we needed. Dad said, a checking for utilities. Small, Autopay. He added, and a notary if you have one. She helped him open an account in his name, handed over a temporary checkbook, and ordered a debit card to be mailed. We set up an automatic transfer from his main account for every other Friday, the day after his payday. She gave us a routing number and account number on a printed slip. I texted them to myself with Dad Utilities and nothing else. Notary, she said. Dad looked at me. I pulled the one-page document I typed on my laptop the night before and left in my bag just in case. Acknowledgement of funds advanced, it started. I, Theodore Evans, acknowledge that my daughter, Hadley Evans, paid household utilities and groceries for the residents at address from dates. I will repay $50 every payday until the balance is satisfied. This agreement is made voluntarily and without coercion. It had a line for the total and a line for signatures. I wrote in the number from my ledger, the highlighter yellow total that had made him blink at the diner. He read it, set his jaw, and signed. I signed under it. The credit union notary stamped the bottom with a thunk. Dad asked for 2 copies, one for him, one for me. I can't promise speed, he said in the parking lot, slipping his copy into the manila envelope. I'm not asking for speed, I said. I'm asking for respect and something in writing. This is both. By the time we pulled into the driveway, the porch light was on again. Inside, the living room felt overbright after a day of dim rooms. I put the receipts on the coffee table. Monica's final HOA notice sat beneath a coaster like it needed pinning down. The TV was off. Mom stood behind the sofa with her arms folded. Derek hovered in the doorway like a bouncer. "We're having a meeting," Dad said. He didn't sit. He looked at each of us like he was checking we were all in the same room. "You had your little meeting at the bank," Mom said, flicking her gaze at the manila envelope. "What is this supposed to be? An ambush?" "This is me paying the bills and putting them in my name," Dad said. His voice was quiet, but it didn't wobble. "And this is me agreeing to pay Hadley back for the last 6 months. We put it in writing." "We notarized it." Mom's mouth opened, closed. Derek snorted. I slid my folder of receipts next to the HOA paper. "No more secrets, no more guilt. If you want help from me, you ask respectfully and sign. If not, I won't be the household's Autopay again." "Respect," Dad said, like he was putting the word in the center of the table. "That's what we're doing. It's not Hadley's job to carry this and get yelled at. It's not fair." Derek scoffed. "So I'm supposed to just pick up the slack while she plays hardball? The internet's been off for a week. I can't even—" "The internet was in her name," Dad said, turning to him. "She closed her account. If you want service, you open your own and you pay the activation and the first month. Since you wanted the room and all the control, you can cover the reconnection fee." Derek's jaw worked. "It's like $60 and then some dumb deposit." "Then pay it," Dad said. He wasn't loud. He didn't need to be. Mom picked up the HOA notice, read the fine print like she was looking for a loophole, and set it down. "I had a weekend planned," she said tightly. "I'll cancel. I'll handle this so Monica will stop parading up our driveway." "Thank you," Dad said. And he meant it as an endpoint, not an opening. Derek muttered something I didn't catch, stomped down the hall, and came back with a shoebox. He pulled out a wad of bills, counted out what he needed with quick, angry flicks, shoved them into his pocket, and headed for the door. "I'll go to the store," he said, meaning the provider's retail location. "I'll get a router. I'm not waiting 3 days for some tech." Mom's eyes flashed at me. "You're enjoying this." "I'm tired," I said. "I'm done fixing things no one will admit are broken." I walked out to my car. The porch light made a yellow triangle on the grass that was finally casting long shadows, still too long for HOA standards. Derek followed me down the steps, footsteps quick. "You think any of this matters?" he said near my shoulder. "The will goes my way. You'll be sorry you burned these bridges." I unlocked my door and turned to face him. "I'm not waiting on a house I don't live in." He stood there a second, like he'd expected me to argue. Then he huffed and headed for his own car, shoebox bills shifting in his pocket. I got in, closed the door, and put my forehead on the steering wheel for a beat. Inside, the living room lights glowed. Through the window, I saw Dad sit, finally, like his legs had been holding something up all day. I drove home to my studio, hung my key on its hook, and let the quiet fill in. By the next Friday, my phone buzzed at 8:07 a.m. with a photo from Dad, an email screenshot, subject line, "Payment confirmation, electric service," the green check mark big as a stoplight. "Paid," he texted. "Confirmation, near us," and a string of numbers. "Nice," I wrote back. "Proud of you." He sent another 20 minutes later for water. Same green check. Same little exhale I could hear even through text. We met for coffee after his PT that afternoon. He slid into the chair across from me with his reusable ice pack balanced on his knee, and a 10 and a crumpled 10 fished out of his wallet. "First installment," he said, smiling like the corners of his mouth had just remembered how to do it. "Slowest loan repayment in history." "I'll take it," I said, folding the bills into the little zip pocket of my wallet I'd mentally labeled Dad. "We wrote it down. That's the important part." He tapped the folder I always seemed to have with me. "I put my copy in the file cabinet, under taxes." He made a face. Seemed official. Across town, the lawn was cut short enough to make the sprinkler heads look like little teeth. Derek had hired a company, MoCo, in block letters on the truck, after Monica's card sat on the kitchen counter glaring for a day. Barrett texted me a photo from his porch. Straight lines in the grass and, blessedly, no orange paper on the door. Looks good, I sent. He replied with a thumbs up, and a minute later, your dad waved at the truck like it was the cavalry. Internet came back too. Derek went to the provider's retail store with his shoebox cash, stood in line, and came home with a modem under his arm. He didn't announce it, but the next group chat message was a speed test screenshot, and finally, no credit, no tag at the end, just a data bar proving he could get Netflix again. Mackenzie texted me a week after the diner. Got a key to Bria's place. Month to month. Utilities included. Thank you for not letting him drag you in. I sent back a congrats and a little apartment emoji. We didn't need to be friends. We didn't need to be enemies either. Mom's messages shifted. Less fury, more invoices. Can you send the PT schedule? She wrote on a Tuesday. I replied with a screenshot of the appointment times and nothing else. Later, do you have the trash pickup calendar? I texted back a link to the city page and a simple, you or Derek can sign up for reminders here. She didn't ask me for money again. She did forward a copy of the HOA fine receipt on the day she canceled her weekend trip. Paid, the email said. She didn't comment, but the next morning, Monica's name showed up in my inbox with a neighborhood newsletter about seasonal shrubs and a bland line about compliance rates improving across the community. Small town code for the house on Oak Ridge had gotten its act together. At the clinic, Quinn handed me a sticky note one morning. You're doing great. Thank you for keeping personal matters. Over there. She pointed vaguely into the air and smiled. Derek didn't come back. If he called the front desk, I didn't know about it. On the second Friday, Dad slid me a 50 at our coffee shop table and a worn 20 on top. Extra, he said, sheepish. I sold the old edger in the garage to a guy down the block. It was just sitting. You don't have to do that. I want to. He tapped the top of the folder in my bag, then his chest. This feels better. We still didn't talk about the photocopied will. It lived in my folder between the internet return receipt and a grocery total from October. I had taken a picture of it with the date stamp and then let it be. Whatever Mom thought it bought her didn't work on me. On a Thursday evening, I drove over after work with a tote bag containing Dad's meds back from my freezer, 2 clean ice packs, and a stack of printed how-to pages. How to change Autopay dates, how to update contact info, how to set reminder alarms on a phone that didn't depend on the wall plug. We sat at the kitchen table and went through them. He wrote his own notes in the margins in block letters. Mom hovered once, then retreated when I just smiled and kept talking to him. Paper between us like a bridge. Derek learned the trash schedule by accident or by link. I didn't ask. The bin started appearing on the curb Tuesday mornings like a ritual. No more tags, no more bags stacked like accusations. The quiet wasn't dramatic. It was practical. Group chats slowed to 1 or 2 messages a day, usually scheduling questions and screenshots of emails with subject lines like payment received. Dad's texts were my favorite. A photo of a sunrise on his morning walk, his knee looking a little less stiff each week, followed by a wobbly selfie with his therapist giving a thumbs up in the background, and, in the corner, the paper copy of our notarized agreement peeking out of his manila envelope like a guarantee. At home, I came in, hung my key on its hook, and breathed. I ate dinner standing at my counter or sitting on the floor, and no one commented on what or when. I watered the pothos until the leaves perked, and it repaid me by trailing toward the window. The last thing to smooth out was rides. For a while, Dad Ubered to PT, then Barrett started offering him a lift on days their schedules lined up. Sometimes Derek took him quietly, like he discovered he could be useful outside of declarations about inheritance. I left the transportation line blank in the schedule because that too was a boundary. If you want a ride, you ask, you plan, you show up on time. On a Sunday, Mom texted me, "Dinner at 5 if you want it. Roast chicken, no pressure." I looked at the message for a long minute. Then I typed, "Thank you for the invite. I'm keeping tonight quiet. Another time." "Okay," she wrote back. Period. No guilt trip. Progress in 3 letters. When Dad slid a folded 20 across the table the next Friday, he also slid a handwritten note. It was a running tally, dates, amounts, the total shrinking in neat subtraction like a slow leak. "Keeping records," he said, a little proud. "Me too," I said, tapping my folder. Help, I'd learned, wasn't a feeling. It was a plan. It had numbers and signatures and quieter rooms. It sounded like a green check in an inbox and a key settling against a hook by a door that only I opened. I walked home past a line of mowed lawns and dark mailboxes and let my apartment swallow me. I locked my deadbolt, I set my key in its place, and I slept.